So I get to introduce our very good friend and a person that I admire and love, truly. A good human being through to the core. Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer is the president of Anton, our affiliated New Thought network that we belong to as a community. And the 5 of us will be going out there next Sunday to the conference. So there's a lot of, and it's so much fun. Oh my God. Next year, you all gotta come. You really do. You don't have to be anything. You have to be a human being and show up. That's all you have to be. It's a wonderful, wonderful community with inspirational speakers and, of course, Reverend Dr. Jerry, who will be nominated. He's nominated, but you'll be president again, or else I'm leaving. Okay. Dr. Jerry is a minister, a workshop leader, and a spiritual guide. And he also is on the, founding member of the Urban Street Angels. Yeah, it's just such an important community to build these young teenagers who have nowhere to go and to give them somewhere to sleep, to eat, to shower, and hopefully to train them to go to be productive people in the world, because that's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal. So I could go on about it, but I won't. There's so many accomplishments that he has made to this planet, but we get to have him now and for our workshop. So please welcome Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer.
Thank you, dear. So good morning once again, or good afternoon, or good evening if you're watching in another time zone or later. It is my honor and privilege to be with you today. Thank you so much, and thank you, Reverend Margaret, as always, for the opportunity. I bring you greetings from Urban Street Angels, and you probably know this, but in case you don't, we provide temporary housing, life skills training, healthcare referrals, and employment for about 155 youth between the ages of 18 and 24 in San Diego. These are young people who have, thank you, these are young people who have aged out of foster care and had nowhere to go, or came out to their family as LGBTQ and were kicked out of the family, or were in an abusive situation and had no home to stay in. So last night, 154 homeless youth had a place to sleep, 3 meals yesterday, and hope because of one of our programs. And Joyful Gathering over time has been so amazingly generous with us, and we thank you so much for that, because your financial contribution and others like it allow us to do what we do. We just started a job training program partially funded by the San Diego Padres Foundation. Yeah. And so Ashton graduated about 3 months ago as an EMT. You can be an EMT, you can be a cosmetologist, you can be an FAA drone pilot. So they have the opportunity to just do these amazing things that they probably never thought they could. You mean I can do that? Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for your kindness and generosity for this program. So you might remember Reverend Margaret's theme for September, the art and science of spiritual living. And so I was thinking to myself, what do we mean by that term, spiritual living? To me, it means beyond appearances. That there's these are my circumstances, this is what's going on right now, but there's always something more and always something bigger and more possibilities. It's about living in possibility, in healing and growth, but also in honesty and integrity and courage. Because, as you know, this teaching, this way of life, this spiritual living is not for the faint of heart. You gotta want this, right? You absolutely gotta want this. So I am often amazed in the ways that wisdom comes into my life. And so I was thinking about this and what do I want to talk about? And so, yes, I know the words to every single one of the words to what the world needs now is love, because I've been around that long. And because I've been around that long, I have my calendar on my phone, and I also have a month at a glance book in my hand with my pencil, making notes, what I'm doing, where I'm going, and all the rest of that, because I just want to look at the month because I want to. That's all we need to say, right? Yeah. We do that because we want to. So I was looking at the month of September, and it turns out that tomorrow, September 30th, is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in Canada. Also called Orange Shirt Day.
I didn't have any.
Had not heard about this before. But the day honors Indigenous children who never returned home, as well as the survivors of residential schools, as well as their families and communities. And the story, briefly, the story is in 1883, the government of Canada had formalized a policy of creating residential schools for Indigenous children with the establishment of 3 schools in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The residential school system, funded by the government and administered by Christian churches, was designed to separate children from their families in order to civilize them. These were so this program went on from 1883 until 1997.
Wow.
And affected more than 150,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Metis, I think is how you pronounce it, children who were taken away from their families and attended these schools. I honor and celebrate, and I bet you do as well, honor and celebrate the people of Canada for recognizing this part of their history, that it is not what it could have been or should have been, but remembering the wise words of Debbie Ford, what we can't be with won't let us be. What we can't be with in the memory and the recognition in the lessons won't let us be. And I'll talk more about that. So spiritual living to me means that I live from and demonstrate the truth that I am and you are the essence, expression, and experience of spirit. That I am already whole, complete, and perfect at my current body weight, BMI, bank balance, education level, and everything else that sometimes we describe ourselves toward and judge ourselves about. And improving on all those things is absolutely wonderful, but it has nothing to do with the truth of our being, which is that we are already the beloved. There's nothing else that we need to do or have or get or release. We are already the beloved and worthy of all the good that life has for us. Spiritual living to me means that my higher power is a loving, nurturing presence that always responds to me as I believe. Absolutely loved and adored that first song. Thank you so much for that. Spirit. Not, and if y'all come from tradition, I'm from Southern California, so I say y'all every once in a while. Not the white, straight, cranky, hateful, surly old man on a cloud someplace. That is not our beloved, nurturing presence that we call spirit or the universe or our higher power or whatever it is. But where are we with that? We say, that's what I say, but what do I really believe and what do I really feel about who my higher power is? So living in this truth, so truth and reconciliation, so I'm going to borrow this theme as my talk for this morning. So this truth, starting with without denial or judgment, this is what happened. This is what happened. Truth about what we feel right now, and allowing ourselves to feel, because life is wonderful and amazing and glorious and painful and heartbreaking. It's all of those things. That's this luscious experience called life. Without spiritual bypass and without toxic positivity. Remember, sometimes, and we'll talk about this in the workshop, we'll talk about, we say, and it's absolutely true, that it's all good, that everything is in divine order, that everything is as it should be, that don't worry, be happy, and all of those other statements that we tell ourselves, and they're absolutely the truth, but the fact is we may be terrified or angry or heartbroken. And it's okay to have in that truth, in that recognition, in that integrity with ourselves. Truth that living wholeheartedly, we are already enough. One of my favorite authors is Brené Brown, and in the book, The Gifts of Imperfection, she writes, wholehearted living is about engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. It means cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake up in the morning and think, no matter what gets done and no matter how much is undone, I am enough. It's going to bed at night thinking, yes, I am imperfect and vulnerable and sometimes afraid, but that doesn't change the truth that I am also brave and worthy of love and belonging. That's the truth of our being. Truth that life is lived from the inside out. We know that. So as we, and you might have heard this before, as we change our thinking, we change our lives. Yes. Truth that we all come with ideas and rules about how things should be. I don't know about you, but I have rules. For myself and for the rest of the world. And if people would just do what King Jerry wanted them to do, right, life would be so much easier. Alas, they do not. And then the opportunity to find out why this bothers me. Why am I so upset about this? Well, it's because you broke one of my rules. May very well not have been one of your rules, which is why you did or didn't do what you did or didn't do. So the awareness that, yes, this is my rule, but not everyone has the same list of rules. Once we allow these truths, once we are consciously aware of them, there is the opportunity for reconciliation. To return to that place of absolute truth with a capital T, to return to that place of perfect peace. So what areas of our life are inviting us toward reconciliation? Remember other words from Ernest Holmes, if it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, it should be our good pleasure to receive it. So what areas of the kingdom am I not partaking in? Inner peace, financial prosperity, physical health, relationships, all of those things. What areas of my life do I need to reconcile with so that I can move forward and live this ridiculously, wonderfully luscious life that I and we came here to live? When we're not experiencing the abundant life that we want, we can work toward reconciliation. So I traveled to Philadelphia on Friday. If you're familiar with the Course in Miracles, there are some amazing passages, and my favorite one today, and it may change over time, but my favorite one today is, I could see peace instead of this. So, yeah, I know American flies nonstop from San Diego to Philadelphia, but I go on United. I have status on United. I board first. I get to hog up the overhead on the plane. I get upgrades every once in a while, so I'm on United, connecting through Chicago. So San Diego, which is my home, which is a wonderful place, and you absolutely should come and visit, especially in February, because y'all have snow and we don't. But we're adding to Terminal 1, which will be wonderful, and so now we're getting more flights. JAL flies nonstop to Narita, I think, Japan. Lufthansa flies nonstop from San Diego to Munich. British Airways flies nonstop from San Diego to London,
Wow.
which is really wonderful. Yes, it's fantastic, but we only have one runway. Because you can't go west or you'll get wet. You can't go south because you'll go to Mexico. You can't go east because there are the mountains, and you can't go north because that's Camp Pendleton, the Marine base. So we're delayed. There really is a point to this story, I promise. So we're delayed an hour sitting on the tarmac waiting to take off, and so I'm delayed getting into Chicago. And my arrival gate is in the B terminal, and the departure gate for Philadelphia is in the C terminal. Okay? And it's getting closer, and it's at the time, and of course, we can't have a moment when we're not connected, and so I'm on the Wi-Fi on the plane and keep refreshing the website to see what's going on and where are we. But I could see peace instead of this. And so I did my conscious affirmative prayer, my spiritual mind treatment, and I said, I don't know, but what I know is I'm going to make it to Philly today and all is well. And the connecting flight was delayed an hour. And oh, by the way, it was 4 gates. They changed the gate, so it was 4 gates from the arrival gate in Chicago. Wow. So I had time to get a little something to eat. I could see peace instead of this. Amazing, amazing lesson. Reconciling into that truth of my being. Last Sunday, September's a busy month. Last Sunday, September 22nd, as you might know, was International Peace Day. And the talk I gave at my home center in San Diego was about the experience of peace, and many congregations, as you know, sing, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." But do we? Do we allow that peace to begin with us? Or are we waiting? Remember John Mayer's song, "Waiting for the World to Change"? You know, it'll be a much better place and the world will be at peace as soon as somebody else does something. Or I'm going to let peace begin with me in this very room and everything is wonderful. But for the love of God, can you move over? Oh, I have to tell you. When I begin to have the thought of starts with, oh, for the love of God, that means I am out of peace.
Right.
For the love of God, would you get out of the way because I just need to get this from Costco and you're in my way. Or you're in the left lane on the bridge, whatever bridge you choose, and I'm just trying to get someplace, or whatever. I can see peace instead of this reconciling with the recognition that I'm in the right place and the right time and all is well. Reconciliation most often requires that we change our story about what happened and how it should have been. My favorite word, if we could take a word out of the dictionary and send it into space, it should be should, right?
Should be.
You should do that. You shouldn't do that. I should do that. It's probably not an empowering word, but that's my story. So many of you know my story, that my husband made his transition almost 6 years ago on the way home from the Anton conference. He actually died in Houston on the way to the hospital. Landed in Houston, his heart stopped. Were able to resuscitate him, transported him, and he died on the way to the hospital, and they weren't able to resuscitate him. And I had a lot of trouble with allowing myself to feel the grief and feel the loss, because that toxic positivity that we talked about earlier, you're a religious science minister. You're not supposed to feel that way. You should, and you get to fill in the blanks. And I had about a year-long battle with myself, allowing myself to feel what I felt. And I created a workshop about allowing ourselves to feel the grief and the loss. But I would suggest that there can be grief and loss, and we were talking about this earlier, about whenever there is a change in our lives, whether we consciously chose it or not. So someone's passing, the change in a relationship, the change in a job situation. So many industries have changed and some have gone away. Or we consciously chose to retire, or we consciously chose to find a new job. And yet, the feeling of grief and loss from that previous experience. So I've adjusted the workshop to include this experience of change and how we handle those human emotions and allow ourselves those human emotions, rather than, no, you shouldn't be thinking that, no, you shouldn't be feeling that. The truth is we are, and allowing ourselves to feel that. Spiritual living invites, encourages, and challenges us toward reconciliation with ourselves. Grief and loss, shame and guilt and regret. What do we carry with us from years ago, from decades ago? If I only would have, if I only hadn't have, keeps us out of peace. So there's the opportunity to reconcile with ourself. And if we come from traditional Christianity, do we still have that little bit of residue about original sin? I grew up Missouri Synod Lutheran, very close to Catholic. They said we were Catholics without the fun. Because the Catholics had the high church and the incense and all the rest of that, and we just had the guilt and the shame and all of that. No matter how long we've been in this teaching, do we still carry any residue about original sin? Or do we recognize that we are the beloved, period? The opportunity to look at that again and decide what's true for us. Reconciliation with others. And again, releasing the shoulds, you should have, you shouldn't have, and just allowing ourselves to forgive when we need to, which is a whole nother Sunday talk, so we won't go down that road, but pretty much always the opportunity for forgiveness. And then recognition with Spirit, with this loving, nurturing presence that Jesus talked about. Louise Hay was quoted as saying, "I am safe, it's only change."
Mm-hmm.
When we go through what we go through, do we really believe that and feel that? That I don't know. If you've ever had that situation where you've been lovingly released, I like to say it feels much better than laid off. But if you're lovingly released from a job, I don't know. I don't know. If you've had a spouse or a partner or a child make their transition, either expectedly or unexpectedly, I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's next. But I'm safe.
Mm.
It's only change. Do we allow that? That has to do with our relationship with Spirit, with our higher power, and the knowledge that we can ask. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's next. But I know that I am loved, always nurtured, always loved. I love that y'all are joyful gathering. My church that I had in San Diego, we started as the New Thought Center for Creative Living, which nobody could say or understood what we meant. And so when I took over as senior minister, we became Joyful Living.
Ah.
So I feel that connection with you for just a variety of reasons, but also for that. And also in the book, Power, Freedom, and Grace, Deepak Chopra talks about joy. And the fact that it's different from happiness, because happiness is a moment-by-moment situation, and I'm happy that I get to be with all of you, but eventually you all will go home and I'll go back to San Diego. I'm happy with this really good piece of chocolate cake. I'm happy with whatever that is, but joy is in the marrow of our bones.
That's right.
The joy that, again, I don't know. I don't know what's next, but I'm safe. It's only change. So this afternoon at 12:15, we're going to do a deeper dive into this experience of change and how we navigate it and allow ourselves to acknowledge the human emotions that come along with it. So, you know, the Giants played Thursday night, lost badly to the Cowboys, so we don't have to worry about them. The Jets and the Eagles are both on at 1 o'clock, but we'll get you home by 2:30, so 2:30, 2:45, so you have time for the second half. You can run through Acme or Wegmans if you need to get the guacamole and get home in time for the second half. But the point is, you have time for this.
Yes.
So I would love it if you would join me, because every time, coming from a purely selfish standpoint, I get amazing insights. And I know that you will as well. So that I hope you'll plan to join me 12:15 downstairs in the living room for this experience. So spiritual living in truth and reconciliation takes courage.
Yes, it does.
One of my favorite books is Forgiveness and Other Acts of Love by Stephanie Dowrick, and she writes about this experience of courage. It takes courage to wake up to how mysterious and profound life is, and not to avoid, deny, scorn, repress, or contain what doesn't easily fit into our worldview. It takes courage to know how wrong we can be and allow our minds to be changed as well as broadened. It takes courage to live wholeheartedly through the range of all our emotions, to be as thoroughly sad and uncertain as we are sometimes buoyant and sure. Courage is a way of living in the world.
That's right.
So moving forward in this experience we call spiritual living, we recognize the opportunities in every moment to live in our truth, to tell the truth, to commit what's necessary in reconciliation, to express and experience the truth of our being. Such a great joy today. Namaste.
Oh.